Hello, I'm Bo Weidema. This is the third video in a series of 10 videos on consequential model of life cycle inventory analysis. The topic of this video is how to fully reflect both physical and monetary causalities in LCI. So we start with the basics. What is included in a consequential model but is not included in an attributional? First, we include the full upstream production that is able to change its output. That means that 100% of the input to the joint production here is coming from unconstrained suppliers, as opposed to the situation in an attributional LCA, where part of the unconstrained supply is substituted by constrained suppliers, for example, suppliers of byproducts. Secondly, we include the full induced upstream production, not just an allocated part. If we have a situation where the determining product is 76 kilograms and the byproduct is 24 kilograms, in a revenue allocation, the attributional LCA would take the part that comes from the revenue of the byproduct. Let's say in this case 11% of the revenue comes from the byproduct, then 11% of the joint production and the full upstream would be eliminated. In consequential LCA, we deal with byproducts in a different way. Instead of having the byproduct on the output side, we place it on the input side with a negative sign. That illustrates that we are providing the byproduct to a market where it's actually displacing something else. And therefore, we are signaling with the minus sign that it is a reduction in demand. So by producing more of the byproduct, we reduce the demand for the substitute. This substitution is of course not included in a attributional LCA. Now this is the basics. Let's look then at a more advanced situation where we also have constrained markets. Let's say that the 76% output was meat, and that this meat was composed of chicken wings with 6 kilograms and other chicken meat of 70 kilograms. Now, in the demand coming only from the wings, so if we're analyzing the wings alone, we will still produce the 70 kilograms of other meat. But since we're not demanding it, and we cannot substitute it away because there is no alternative production that can be substituted, because there's no other ways of producing chicken meat than from chicken, then we're actually reducing, or we're inducing, a marginal consumption. Somebody needs to eat this additional production, and the way that this is done is by lowering the price until there has been this additional consumption. We could, of course, also have looked at the demand for the other meats, which would have led to an induced marginal consumption of wings. Now that kind of marginal consumption changes are not included in attributional LCAs. If we continue with the wings alone, but of course the logic could be applied as well to the other situation, we see that the market for wings is where we have placed our demand for 6 kilograms of wings. But have we also received 6 kilograms of wings from the slaughterhouse? No, we haven't, because there is, in fact, only 0.88 kilograms of wings produced when we provide the revenue related to 6 kilograms of wings. Because the slaughterhouse will only produce as much as it receives in revenue, then we have a situation where we have less wings produced than we have actually asked for. So where does the rest of the wings come from? Well, it comes from a reduced marginal consumption of wings by other consumers. In this case, 5.12 kilograms of wings. So the sum of the reduced marginal consumption and the induced marginal consumption is a change of consumption for other consumers, where they are changing from eating wings to eating other meats. And the quantities are slightly different. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be the same consumers that eat the meat that has given up eating the wings. But these changes in marginal consumption are included both in terms of the induced marginal consumption and the reduced marginal consumption in the consequential modeling. Now, finally, the first order rebound effects are also included when the substituted consumer products have different prices. So the price rebound effect is added as a change in marginal consumption, because the consumer that now has more money to spend will then not be able to spend the money for something else. This rebound effect is also not included in an attributional LCA. So altogether, what you can see is that compared to the consequential system, the attributional system is quite amputated. Since no partitioning and cutoffs are made, the consequential model maintains all mass, energy, and monetary balances in every data set and in every product lifecycle. Now, what about the uncertainty of the parameters used to model these economic causalities? Well, some parameters are related to specific data points, like production volumes and market trends, and they can be treated as any other data point, including the variation and the additional uncertainty from data quality. But some uncertainty is related to fixed model parameters, like market delimitations. Is the market global, continental, or does it respect country boundaries? Things like capital replacement rate, the lifetime of technologies, the technology levels, whether it's a constraint technology or not, or whether there is a market constraint or not, or what kind of elasticity you might need to include. All of these things, some of them might be treated as a parameter, but in some cases it's more like a fixed model parameter, and therefore it can only be assessed by sensitivity analysis with manual modifications for each model run. So it's the same kind of uncertainty that you have when you link positive and negative inputs to their markets. If you know how to deal with uncertainty of your unconstrained suppliers, you also know how to deal with the uncertainty of market substitutes. Whether you put a minus sign in front or not, the uncertainty doesn't change. It is only the sign of the actual flow that changes. So we're trying to reflect the full uncertainty of the choices to be made. You might know this graph of the difference between accuracy and precision, where accuracy is about how well do you actually hit the goal. So the blue dots represent how accurate you are. The red dots represent how precise you are. And that means that you can be very precise off the target. The main source of uncertainty in consequential models is the actual variability and lack of precision in the underlying model or in the underlying data. Attributional models are often presented as having very low uncertainty because only the precision is measured, while the accuracy is implicit or ignored. So if you really care about accuracy, then there is a clear advantage of a consequential model, even though it may at first sight look more uncertain. So the system boundary of a consequential LCA has no cutoffs of any part of the life cycle. There are no consequences of co-production that are allocated away. The price rebounds are included when comparing products with different prices. Geographically, the system is global. There are no general cutoff criteria applied. For example, we're not leaving out indirect land use changes, we're not leaving out capital goods, and we're not cutting off a specific percentage of the inputs. Temporally, the system traces consequences forwards in time. Thanks for your attention. This was the third video in a series of 10, so we are missing 7.